Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Chitose is in the Ramune bottle, Season 1, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I think it's really interesting when we had that conversation between Saku and Kenta, where it's just kind of like the whole stalker conversation, and then like Saku Kenta goes down some really dark paths about like, basically understanding the mindset of someone who is this stalker and what they kind of get off on and stuff like that. And even Saku's like, yo bro, like chill with all this, like you're getting pretty dark in these ideas. And Kenta's like, I read a lot, which I'm like, is he pulling that just from light novels? Because we know he's a big light novel fan, but I'm like, is that just him in general of like, oh, maybe he's into true crime stuff, or maybe he's just reading stuff in general, but maybe it just only encapsulates the light novels that he's reading. So, but then we had this guy come over. Is it Tomoyo or I think it might be Tomoyo. Comes over and he's like, oh, could you give us a minute? And initially Kenta's like, yeah, sure. But then Saku was like, yo, Kenta, you don't have to leave. It's like, yo, like I was actually sitting down having lunch with him. Like, if you want to have a conversation you don't want him to be a part of, then come at a different time. And Tomoyo is like, oh yeah, sorry about that. That was kind of a dick move. So it's like, right, are you and Yuzuki actually dating? He's like, yeah, we are. And it's like, well, I just kind of get a feeling like you're pretending to. He's like, well, can you keep this a secret? Okay, actually we are. Which I was like, I thought that was so fascinating. I'm like, why does Saku feel the need to immediately tell? Because I guess there's almost this element inside of his head where it's like, I can tell you like her, and I don't want to be the reason to deter you away from like trying to like get closer to her is me. But then I'm also like, I don't know if this is like a 4D chess move where it's like actually like, because the moment like he put out his hand, like Saku had this look on his face where it's just like, I guess he's not a big fan of just like handshaking deals and stuff. I don't know, because like the last episode when him and Yuzuki were making their deal, he didn't like shake her hand, he like slapped it, because I guess that's his way, you know. I think that's his way of being like, no, this is, you know, it's kind of handshake, but it's like, it's meant to be like a little playful, I guess. But like I don't know if he's suspicious of this guy, because it's like, right, this person, just at the time Yuzuki happens to be, she's being stalked, that someone just happens to come up, ask all of these questions, immediately knowing that we're not dating, we're just pretending. Because he's like, oh, Yuzuki doesn't seem like the type of person that would just date someone out of nowhere. It could have easily been a thing, and Saku could have easily explained it away, but maybe he thought explaining away would just be unnecessary and just BS that anyone would be able to sniff it out. But I was like, you could have just been like, we've been dating for a while, but we've just kept it low key. We've just only recently felt comfortable letting people know that we're dating. But the fact is, he didn't do that he went out of his way to be like, no, we're not dating. It's like, okay, if you want to get closer to her, sure, whatever. And he's like I said, unless it's just simply from the fact he just doesn't want to interfere with her love life, where it's like, hey, here's someone who does like her, and I don't want to step on their heart, step on their chances. Like I said, there's also the possibility of this some 4D chess move. We'll have to wait to see where things kind of go, because basically he wants to learn more about, Tomoyo wants to learn more about Yuzuki and to kind of better understand her and stuff. And Saku's just like A-okay about it. And then Kenta gets a text. At first I was like, did Saku text you something that's going on here? And then he's acting weird. I'm like, what's up with Kenta? And then he pushes Saku into like the biology room, and it turns out, it's Yuko and Yua, and they're acting super scary, and poor Kenta's bowing his head and apologizing to Saku. It's like they must have threatened him hardcore or whatever, and now it's like, yeah, like you got some explaining to do. And he's like, right, they're like, yeah, time to sit down. And he's about to sit there like, we never told you to sit in a chair, get on your knees. And he's like, I'm really sorry about the library situation that played out the way it did, because, and one of them was like, I think it might have been Yua that was like, do you know what I told you last time? He's like, basically, you're fine with me protecting Yuzuki, but don't put myself in danger just to kind of take the blow for her. And they're kind of like getting pissed at him, because it's like, right, we want to help out Yuzuki too, but the fact of the matter is, it doesn't we're not going to be okay with that if it means you get hurt in the long run. So like, you know, we don't want to just sit on the sidelines and watch. So like, if there ever is a situation, because we know you feel like you've got everything under control and stuff, but it's like, if you ever feel like there's something you can't handle, know we're there to help you, because we want to help out Yuzuki as well. We just don't want you getting hurt in the process. And he's like, right, I promise. And also bringing up the whole, you know, like, because of this position, I can see under your skirts. And it's like, yeah, he deflects when stuff gets serious. I get it. It's like his defense mechanism because it's his way to kind of alleviate some of the tension, but also like I think maybe alleviate some of his guilt for worrying them as much as he did. But because they're like, right, there's other ways to handle the situation. Like you didn't have to kind of throw yourselves into the lion's den. Because I think that was part of what started the whole Kenta conversation where he was like, are those the good type of guys that seem like maybe the stalker kinds? And Kenta was like, no, they seem more like the use brute force type of guys, not the, because stalking is like a whole other thing. They're kind of meatheadish, like, so it's like they don't seem like, there's some methodology to being, which I'm not saying that from personal experience, but you watch enough crime drama related stuff, it's like there's a methodology behind someone being a stalker, and it's like they don't fit the profile of that, I guess. Either way, but anyway, he makes his promise to them. I think the next sequence was him hanging out with Asuka, which I even love that she's like, well, you're not supposed to be up here without permission. He's like, well, I actually have the key to this place because I'm like the second head to like the people who clean up or whatever. And she's just like pissed at the teacher because she's like, oh God, he never told me. He went out of his way specifically to make sure I didn't know that Saku had the key here and had free access to come up here when he wants to. Saku ends up talking to her, going to advice. It's so interesting that she ends up being like his, like, I don't know if sounding board's the right word, but like his confidant that he like goes to the most for advice. Because it almost feels, and I'm sure that actually ends up being kind of an interesting conundrum to the others, because he gets advice from the others, but he doesn't expressly go to the others for advice. He goes specifically to Asuka for her guidance, and I guess it's because she's also the oldest of them, because she's a third year, which I don't know if we knew that. Maybe we did, but I feel like I would have remembered that, but maybe they brought that up previously. But I feel like this is our first time hearing that she's a third year, so like I think that's even more so why he goes to her for consultation, because she's also like, they have their repertoire, and I think she'll give it to him straight, even though she talks in the most interesting way. I mean, this series has a very interesting way. The way they speak in such like poetic analogy is so interesting. But either way, she kind of brings up something interesting where it's like, it's like she's like, one of the things that makes you so like, what was it, enigmatic? It's just, she's like, the fact is that first and foremost, you act like you can handle everything on your own because you haven't been proven wrong so far. You act like you have so many other people around you, but at the end of the day, you are kind of alone. But even with that all said and done, like, even when you do try to handle something on your own, there is always someone by your side. So it's kind of like you might keep your distance from people, like kind of being on this lonely road, but there are the people beside you. It's just a matter of kind of, at least how I was interpreting, is that you have to reach out your hand to them. I talked about it previously. I think he comes from the lane of like, he has a hard time, like, he presents himself a certain way. It's like, right, he's friendly and he connects with these people, but I think it's just like, love being the two-way street is kind of, I think, a hard thing for him. But, I mean, once again, maybe I'm injecting a lot of, like, reading way more into it than that. But they end up getting interrupted by Yuzuki. And, Suzuki's, like, gets properly introduced to Asuka. And it's like, yo, what's your relationship with Chitose? And she's like, I wonder what would it be. She's like, oh, could it be like an older woman and a young person? And she was even kind of, getting at Yuzuki, being like, oh, well, not getting at it, but it's being like, oh, the relationship is probably exactly what you think it is. Maybe, maybe not. And being very coy about it and walking away. And for Yuzuki, it hurt her because she's like, the way she talks to you. Because she's like, and we brought this up like, end of episode 4 and throughout episode 5 was like the whole point of Yuzuki thought like they had something special, because she's like, I thought out of anyone, like, we are the closest to each other, like personality wise and stuff like that, that she's like, I thought I knew you, but then I find out like, oh, here's this person who knows you even better, who has like, you have a real special relationship with her, and it kind of undermines theirs. It makes her realize, like, was ours even really special to begin with? And for her, it's just, it is a little bit of jealousy of just kind of like, and the realization of like, oh, she even says like, right, we're less than friends, but not quite lovers, and even Saku was like, I can't even like make a little subtle joke about it, because he's like, I was actually kind of thinking the same thing. It put it in the question their relationship, and it's kind of sad because she thought like, it makes her kind of recognize like, do we even have anything special then? If it's like, I've seen what a special relationship is between you and this girl, and it's like, it's like even the way she addresses you, like the way she says you, because once again, Japanese, just the connotation in which like the way you say you, whether you say it, it's like with the like it's I forgot the exact phrasing of it in Japanese, how you like phrase like the differentiation, how it differentiates between like you saying you can differentiate because it could be like you as like a very like platonic way, then there's you in a very close way. Like once again, it's all about like the honorifics and just like the way you speak in Japanese can like there's so much that can be expressed in just the way you address someone, without you actually even having to say your feelings. And that's what kind of caught off guard. It's just like the way she addressed you. She even says like, right, it's not even like Saku and Yuzuki anymore. It's her last name. It's like, oh, and you're Chitose. Like that's our dynamic. And so she holds out her hand and he's like, oh, is that you trying to say you shall not pass? She's like, you got a lot more problems if you don't recognize the universal sign of like what this means of me just wanting to hold hands. And it's like, well, I died all of a sudden. She's like, well, maybe it'll help me feel a little bit more special. And he's like, all right, come on. You don't want to turn that into a bad habit. So make their way back to her house. And there in her mailbox, she finds some photos of her. There's something like one or two of her and Saku, and his face is scratched out. And on the back of it, it says break up. And obviously he makes a little like joke of things and she kind of smiles and stuff, but he's like, okay, good. She's keeping up a brave face, but I need to end this before she's no longer able to keep up that brave face. Because he's suggesting like, right, this really is a stalker thing. You should probably like get some security cameras. That'd be a big preventative measure. But Yuzuki doesn't want to inform her parents yet because I think she for whatever reason she feels the need to handle this on her own, and maybe she's scared that like if her parents find out they'll blow it into a bigger thing and it won't be something they can quietly resolve. I'm curious the reasoning behind that. Maybe it's also just a thing of like I don't want to involve my parents in this. Like I want to be able to handle my own issues. Like I don't know. Then you had the conversation between him and Tomoyo over the phone where it's just kind of like when he started first liking her and initially it was just for her looks, but then he was like what really sparked it more recently was like when she ended up helping him when he dropped something. She came back, put the light on her phone to kind of help, and it's like he's like, well, it's not the whole she's doing that just to be nice thing that you're might potentially thinking. It's because Yuzuki's the type of person that would never be able to kind of like forgive herself to just simply walk by something like that without helping. And he kind of brings up the fact is like if you want to know Yuzuki, like you need to just get know her, like just try talking to her. Don't do anything fancy or crazy, like extravagant. Just like be plain and simple and just be driven by pure passion about it and talk to her. And eventually, like when the illusion of who she is crashes and burns, you need to then decide whether or not you still have those feelings for her, and then you tell her exactly how you feel. That's the best approach to this situation. So once again, continuously interesting perspective of like understanding what is his thought process and why he's kind of co-signing Tomoyo's like we'll have to wait to see. And then finally, there's the basketball game itself, because the whole thing is about going back to that bet they made last episode. And obviously, the problem is that Yuzuki's shoes that she wears, her basketball shoes, were stolen. And so, obviously, Saku had noticed, was her name, is it Nazuna? Because I know there's, obviously I'm thinking of Nazuna from Call of the Night. But I want to say, isn't a character, yeah, one of the characters in My Gift Level 9999 Unlimited Gotcha is also a Nazuna. So that's why I'm hoping I'm not conflating that other Nazuna's name. I definitely know Call of the Nights, but like maybe that one I'm conflating with this one, but I'm pretty sure her name was Nazuna as well. Either way, her and a popular dude who was causing issues for Kenta, maybe episode 3, that guy, they were there, and even Chitose's like, Saku's like, is this kind of a weird thing for them to be here? Like, coming to watch a basketball, is that really kind of a real big date for them? And he was noticing how odd they were acting, and then with her shoes going missing, he was thinking back to it. So it's like, is one, if not both of them, involved in it? Because like the moment Yuzuki walked over last episode is exactly when Nazuna bailed. So like I said, it feels like she's the obvious like red herring. Because there's also the conversation about those guys who are like, oh, someone, they basically serve some dude that likes Yuzuki, and they were kind of like trying to get info on her. They kind of basically hand her over to their boss, or like whoever they're serving. So it's like definitely someone from a different school, but maybe they have ties to people at this school, like, and maybe it has something to do with like it's not just Yuzuki's interested. It could also be like Nazuno might be dealing with like some harassment too. So that might be the correlation of like that might not be Nazuno's part to play in all this too. Is like her and Yuzuki have their issues. In particular, she has her issues with Yuzuki, but it might be a thing of I kind of get the feeling like either she's being blackmailed and forced to do something. Especially it's interesting too because I just remembered Kenta did bring up the whole conversation of blackmail, so it might be the thing that Nazuna might be doing part of this, but it might be because she's being blackmailed by the guy in particular who's trying to get to Yuzuki. So we'll see. That's something I think to keep in mind. Either way, Saku and was it Kaido end up splitting up to find her shoes, and he's figuring like, well, whoever it was, like if they were really trying to get rid of it, they would have already long disposed of them. But he's like, most likely they're trying to like just kind of like screw with her, so they most likely tossed them somewhere because he was asking Kaido to check all like the trash cans. So he's checking on these different places until I don't know what sparked this thought, and I don't know if it relates to those two in any shape or form. Was like he ends up checking like the archery range and he ends up finding her shoes. He has to run through like the shrubs and stuff. So, but yeah, partway through the game and their team is losing until Saku shows up, a little scuffed up with her shoes, and she's like, right, I'm probably going to show off right now. And so her and Haru go back to it. And the coach asked, Saku, it's like, have you ever watched her play before? He's like, yeah, a few times. She's calm, cool, and collected. He's like, oh, so you don't really know the first thing about her. Because it's like, the fact is that typically she is calm, cool, and collected. The fact is that she really like maneuvers and put herself in a situation so that Haru will and the team will all better themselves. Like she kind of lays them up to kind of be the best version of themselves, to be better. But then she's also like every once in a while she'll run wild. So we see them closing the gap little by little until we get to that last bit. And even not just Saku, but everyone is captivated when she kind of does that 3. And it's beautiful, and it's just like, once again, the poetic nature of this story of just like how he describes the way he's like almost like saying like literally no one can touch her in that moment, and she sinks the basket and everyone's, like I said, like silent, it like watching, and then just like it sinks in and they win, and she kind of gives a peace sign to Saku. So it's like, yeah, one of our bets. So it's gonna be interesting to see where everything ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.